Good morning, everybody. You want to get controversial today? So I asked myself, how do I piss off as many people as possible? Not really, but if I was, that the answer would be this video. But that's all right. AI girlfriends, the future of robot wives. This has captured the imagination for many, many years. This is not a new thing whatsoever. But recently, with the advancements in technology and robotics, it is rapidly approaching. The cyberpunk future is here, boys. We've already been in it for a minute. We just don't know it yet. Anyways, before I decided to make this video, I went around and I wanted to see what everyone else's take was. Wanted to read the room and I wanted to hear all sides of the story. I listened to content creators of all varieties. And there was a couple of things that I noticed. The first thing that I noticed is that most of the takes on this were terrible. And I don't want to get into too much of a tangent on this because it honestly deserves its own video. But the thing that I often noticed, particularly among female creators, is well, these guys are desperate, creep, incel losers, and they just slap a label on it. It's really condescending. Even with female creators who are normally quite sympathetic to the situation with young men. On this particular subject, not so much, and I'll get into that in a minute. It's more socially acceptable just to slap a label on these guys and call them names because the root causes of this whole thing are politically incorrect and socially inconvenient to talk about. Because this whole thing, why would guys go for synthetic companions in the first place? You gotta ask that question. Why? They don't. Because the answer is inconvenient to them. And it's not just that these guys are a bunch of incel losers, and some of them might be, but I think it's something like half of young men are not even looking for relationships or even sex at this point. You really think that it's just their fault that they just can't get women and so, you know, screw them? Dude, this is half of the male population. I could understand it was maybe a couple percent of like the bottom tier men who just don't even try. You get what you give. But half of young men, you really think that it's their fault, or maybe there's something wrong with the situation here, or when it comes to AI girlfriends that maybe they're responding to a situation. Oh no, it's just because they're incels. Yeah, of course. It's that simple. And I think the real irony of this whole thing is that the way that this is being responded to is indicative of the problem itself. It's that these young men don't feel cared about. And let's be real here. We don't care about young men in society today, and we haven't for quite some time. But then we blame them for being fucked up. For the last couple of years, I ran a nonprofit uh, men's self development program, and I would coach these guys. And I couldn't tell you how many times these guys would break down and they would tell me their parents didn't give a shit about them. The school system certainly didn't. And in the media and socially, it's been acceptable to bash men their whole lives. So you got these 18-year-olds with a super fucked up childhood, and then we blame them. And we neglect to mention how terrible the dating situation is. What the hell is that? It's brutal. And what it comes down to, I think that this is appealing to a lot of guys, is that they don't feel cared about by women. And the fact that the first inclination, because there was only a few exceptions of female creators actually addressing the elephant in the room and the root causes, but they didn't lead with understanding and compassion, and they didn't ask the question of why. They just slapped the label on it. And they're shaming these guys. But no, no, shame on you, and shame on me, and shame on the past couple of generations that failed these young guys. The only honest thing to do is to look in the mirror and realized that they're a reflection of us and we failed them. Blaming the younger generation for being messed up is is asinine because we created them. They grew up in our environment where we were on watch. So it's our fault. They're a reflection of us. And so with these young guys not being cared about and seeing that they're clearly not cared about, and then with the dating situation being the way that it is, and then they go to synthetic companions to be cared about, even if it's artificial, they're willing to accept that. They're willing to accept the illusion, right? Because it's preferable to reality. But what does that say about the dating market that guys are going to this? And it's not just a fringe, small minority of incel guys, let me tell you. And because this technology is also in its infancy, give it a couple years. I don't think that a lot of these female creators are dumb. I think that they are looking ahead and they're intimidated. They realize where this is going. There's more than enough movies and shows that depict where this technology is going in the future. And I think they realize that they're going to get outcompeted. Because while it might be janky now, in a couple of years, you're going to have humanoid robots that are indistinguishable from reality. And that is going to be hard to compete with. And you know damn well that even successful guys are going to go for this stuff because of how the dating market is, how risky the court system is, how biased the laws are. Because, on the lower tier, yeah, you might have guys that are desperate and have no other options. But on the upper tier, let me tell you, do you really want to lose half your stuff? Do you want to deal with the fact that as a man, you don't really have any authority in your own home? It's basically the government runs your family now. Do you really want to deal with that? Or just knowing the fact that she has all that leverage over you, she could just destroy your life. Why would you put yourself in that situation? Why would you put yourself in a situation where you have none of the leverage and you could lose everything? It's not worth it. You just take the risk. You take the risk analysis and it's not worth it, especially since you've got options and you can just kind of get your rocks off. But me personally, I figured out that's not very fulfilling. It's not something I want to waste my time on. I would much rather focus on myself and do things that I really enjoy. Screw the hookup thing, man.